Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm Sam Thompson, proud to be your 66th president. So today's meeting, we have 37 signed up, pre-registered for the live meeting, and 27 for the Zoom meeting. I office with our district governor, Tom Gump. We're actually in the same profession. And it's kind of nice because I get the daily reports on what is going on within our district. And Tom has been telling me that right now, out of the 65 clubs in our district, we're the only club that is meeting live. And they did a survey with the presidents this last week, and they asked if you could do a hybrid type of meeting where you would go live or if you would go to Zoom. 88% said they're trying to work on that, to do that in the next couple to 3 months. It's really a challenge to put on these meetings. It's not an easy task, but we have a team of really good people that are helping us do that. So I want to acknowledge, I was thinking after our meeting last week, I really want to acknowledge who's putting this on, and there are 5 people that I want to acknowledge. When I say your name, just raise your hand. You don't need to stand up. So first, doing our Zooms, we have Chris Laskowski with C-Vision. Chris is right up front. He's doing a phenomenal job. He arrives early, he edits, and he gets us onto YouTube. And this week, he was able to get us into the slides onto Zoom. So hopefully, Zoom, you're getting to see Chris's slides. Next is Fred Sylvester, our club service administrator. Where's Fred? Fred is over there. He works with our Edina Country Club, making sure the food's ready and the numbers are all set up and the tables are set up, and works with our volunteers, make sure that they're all doing their job. Of course, Becky Mikulski, our administrator, she does everything. Becky's right up front. She gets the meeting information onto the website, meeting email blasts, and does our registration. So Becky does a great job. And then Don Hutchinson. Don's up front here. Don, if you can raise your hand. Does an excellent job securing the speaker. He goes out and gets the speaker. I know there's a lot of people helping him find speakers. And he does all the follow-up, gets the slides, gets the bio. So he does a great job. And then I have to acknowledge our past president, Josh Sprague. I know we told Josh last week how great, or 2 weeks ago, how great he was at the transitions meeting. But he's incredible. Last week, the first meeting, my computer wasn't working right, and we couldn't get it set up. And so Josh drove home. We're madly trying to get the meeting set up. He drove home and got his computer and came back. So his technology is always needed in there. So thanks so much. And finally, I want to recognize Allie and the ECC staff. This year, they're more challenged than ever with COVID. They're wearing their masks. When they come out, they're bringing you the silverware. They don't have the silverware out on the tables. And they actually, her team thanked me last week and said how impressed they were with our club and how we're responding with our masks and keeping our distance. And I noticed it today when we were arriving, that everybody did a really good job. So thanks so much for doing that. So all of you that I just acknowledged, I just want to thank you one more time. Thanks so much. Okay, we now have member updates. We have a couple member updates. First, I want to acknowledge Mary Youngren. She owns a company called Advent Talent Group. And that is a leading staffing agency in the Twin Cities, and they support community efforts. They call it the Advent Cares Program. And last December, her company received from the Minneapolis Chamber the Keystone Honored Company Award for what they do with their Advent Care. So what they do is Mary's company selects an organization to support that is connected to job readiness in their profession of connecting great talent with great companies. And this year they selected Brand Lab. So that's what this slide shows. And what Brand Labs does is they create opportunities in marketing creative for kids with diverse and ethnic socioeconomic backgrounds through intern and mentorship programs. And due to the pandemic, Mary was saying they really considered rolling back this program, but she said it just didn't feel right. So they went for it anyway, and the interns were very thankful. You can see they just finished putting the swag bags together. I did ask Mary for a quote, and Mary's quote is, "The trouble with many of us is that in trying times, we stop trying." So Mary's team kept moving forward. Congratulations, Mary. Next, Royce Pavelka and his wife, Kristen, just had a baby, new baby, Matilda Mary, nickname is Tilly, and born on July 6th at 11:05 at night, 8 pounds, 5 ounces, and you can see the photo with the big brothers, Archie and Briggs. And I did ask Royce for a quote, and he said, "Kristen and I can already tell Tilly has a special place in our heart and family as the only girl. Briggs and Archie are already spoiling her. Dad has more patience with her, and Kristen is excited for a future shopping buddy. I'm excited for the next 10 years, then we will see how things go." And then finally, I want to, there was a great article in the Star Tribune this morning in the business section for Paul Moody's company, Faribault Woolen Mills. And it talked about how they opened a store in Linden Hills. So congratulations, Paul. That was great story. And we have 3 birthdays that we want to take a look at. Happy birthday, everybody. And Rotary anniversaries. And quite a few there. What is that, 7 anniversaries? Dan Hallberg, 47 years. I think Dan's here, isn't he? Wow, fantastic. And Brad Hepp, 34. So that's great. Okay, assisting off podium are greeters, Wooj Bayan and Bjorn Frodenthal. Front desk is Lindsay Smaka, working with Becky. The Barker, Fred Sylvester. Way to go, Fred. And photographer Jennifer Benarat. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, at this time, could Steve Butner please come up and do the invocation pledge in the 4-way test?
Good afternoon. For today's invocation, I'd like to share one that was created by fellow Rotarian Sean Bird of the Schwaswick Rotary. We've been shattered into pieces. Divisive patter has demeaned us all. Today, let us commit to redeem peace around us. In this room, in this city, let our faith bloom in the gritty places among all creeds and races. Let our Rotary service shine to all who observe us. And now, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and for liberty and justice for all. And finally, the 4-way test of what we say and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build big goodwill and better friendships, and will be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
All right, so we do have a guest here with us today. So Heather Hansen, would you like to stand up and introduce your guest, Lisa?
Lisa Holter. Lisa works with the North so I've been with for about 14 years, but recently joined my team in the real estate business. So she's now Lake Sotheby's agent, and she got her license in February, and now it's already closed during the midst of all this massive transaction.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
My last announcement about Rotary apparel for a while. The Public Image Committee has put together where we can purchase polo shirts. Tim, would you like to walk around the room and show everybody what the Rotary logo will look like on your polo shirt?
My legs or my shirt?
Let's not even go there. Anyways, so the colors for the polo shirts are the royal blue, navy, black, and silver. They will have the Rotary logo on them. And we do have styles specifically for women. And we do have the Rotary baseball caps. Tonight, we're closing the registration off at midnight tonight, so you want to get in on this great deal. Shirts are $28. Tim's loving this. Shirts are $28, hats are $13. Love everybody to wear their Rotary pride on their heart and on their head. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tim.
Hello, everybody. I'm the treasurer this year. You're welcome. It'll work out really well. You should be very excited about it. Along with that, I am to ask you to consider doing the ACH, which is the Automatic Clearinghouse, which coordinates electronic payments. So what that you can do is sign up with Becky. It's done on the 10th of the month. It's very easy. It comes out of your account, no charge. If you put it on a credit card, there will be a charge. It's no hassle. It's easy for the club. It's great for the club. Right now, we have about 44% of the club is on ACH, and we'd love to get that up to 75 to 100%, which would be great. Any questions? You can come to me or Becky, who's not here today, but we can get you signed up. Well, she wasn't in the back.
I know.
All right, she's right here. She looks lovely. So.
Good afternoon, Bjorn Freudenthal, and on behalf of our esteemed Gala Committee, my co-chair Catherine Gump and I, we've been busy recruiting hosts. We all know that this year our Gala will be slightly different, so we'll be having smaller gatherings, and we're looking for hosts who would be happy to host an evening. I'm really happy to announce to you today that we've been really incredibly encouraged by the enthusiasm that everybody and the creativity that everybody has been showing us. I can give you as an example, we have the Campbells who will be hosting an English dinner on a boat cruise Lake Minnetonka, and the Winningers are hosting a evening in Florence. So we are excited about this, about your enthusiasm, and we invite you to, we have 11 hosts, and we're looking for another 9, so please see Catherine Gump or myself. I'm sorry? I thought somebody had a comment here, whatever. Want to invite you to submit, ask us about it, submit and come up with some creative ideas. The theme, of course, this year is Rotary around the world. So these hosts are evening events with specific countries, their traditions and cultures displayed. So looking forward to a nice gala, and submit your host applications. Thank you.
Okay, one more announcement before I bring up Joe Hayes to introduce the speaker. We have our leadership series that is going to be starting next Tuesday. For the first one, I'll be talking on teamwork, and it's going to be running for a year. They go from 6 until 7 o'clock. They're all virtual, so you can stay at home and tap on into the program. And we have plenty of room. If you want to sign up, just go to our website. With that, I'm going to bring Joe Hayes up again. He will be introducing our speaker, and Joe actually provided his bio to me, so I'm going to be reading what Joe wrote. Yes. I overachieved, outkicked my coverage, out over my skis, over my head in marriage and daughters. Married to the wonderful Chris, and I have 2 smart, beautiful, and sweet daughters, Kelly 29 and Lauren 27. Both are married and live locally. Chris and I now live in Shorewood. I am an independent manufacturer's representative selling sustainable food packaging from post-consumer recycled PET, which Joe says is pop bottles, to compostable fiber. Rotary has been an important part of my life for 20 years, and it has made me a better person. My 2 big Edina Rotary claims to fame are I originated Women in Rotary with Ellen Kennedy, and I am Jeff O's sponsor. I think it evens out. Okay, Joe, if you could come up.
Did you hear that, Jeff? talking to you. We should be very excited. We have Dr. Terry Wu, who's from the University of Minnesota, to come talk about neuromarketing. Terry came to us via Duke University and also Vanderbilt. For his research on how to brain controls eye movement, he received a PhD from Vanderbilt for his research in learning and memory. 2003, he started an online marketing firm in Minnesota. He employs insights from neuroscience, psychology, and every aspect of marketing for his clients. He has a deep understanding of how consumers make buying decisions and applies that knowledge to online marketing to gain a big advantage for his clients. He consults with clients in a very highly competitive industry. I just met him, and he's lives in Plymouth, and he's in the Plymouth Rotary Club. I asked him if he went to any of the Duke University basketball games. He said he enjoyed it there, but he went to a off-site party for it, at the stadium, but it was so loud he had to leave because it just got too much. But we were very excited to hear your talk. I encourage everybody to look him up, check out his YouTubes, TED Talks, and he's going to be a great speaker. Dr. Terry Wu.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. In the next 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I'd like to give you a brief introduction of neuromarketing. I'm going to share some stories and some research studies to explain what neuromarketing is, why traditional marketing often fails, and why neuromarketing matters to you. Also, I'll have a very brief discussion with you on how we make decisions and why we sometimes make irrational decisions. Then I'll close my talk with one neuromarketing insight that you can apply to grow your own business. I'd like to start by sharing this interesting research study published about 20 years ago. A group of psychologists did a very interesting experiment at a wine store. They want to find out if the wine store's background music could influence shoppers' wine selections. Here's what they found. On the days when they played German music, German wines, also French wines, by 3-1. Then on the days when they play French music, French wines, also German wines, by 3-1. But here's a kicker. They asked the shoppers if the background music influenced their wine selections. You probably could guess. Over 90% of shoppers say no. This study showed that our buying decisions can be influenced by something so subtle that we don't even notice. This study also raises some important questions. How do we make buying decisions? Do we make decisions consciously based on facts, reason, and logic? Or do we make decisions unconsciously based on emotions, feelings, and intuition? Next, I'd like to share with you how our unconscious emotions can influence our decisions. You remember New Coke? Here's a story behind New Coke. In 1985, Coca-Cola was losing market share to Pepsi. Pepsi had been taunting Coca-Cola by claiming in blind taste testing, more people preferred Pepsi over Coke. Coca-Cola decided to improve the taste by changing its formula. It came out with New Coke. Over 200,000 people taste tested New Coke. Overwhelmingly, people preferred New Coke over the original Coke. But more importantly, people preferred New Coke over Pepsi. With a lot of confidence, Coca-Cola rolled out New Coke. But very quickly, this sweet drink turned into a bitter pill that cost Coca-Cola tens of millions of dollars. Angry customers started protesting around the country, demanding the original Coke back. Anxious customers started hoarding Coke products left on store shelves. Coca-Cola headquarters received about 8,000 angry phone calls a day. You can't help asking, how could 200,000 people get it wrong? What did Coca-Cola miss? What Coca-Cola missed was the strong emotional connections people had. For nearly 100 years, Coke had been marketed as a feel-good product. Their marketing slogans included, "Have a Coke and a smile," "Open happiness," "I'd like to buy the world a Coke." Celebrities like Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and the Beatles were the faces of Coca-Cola. If you don't feel well, have a Coke. Coke was more than a sweet beverage. Drinking Coke had to become a feel-good experience. That feel-good experience involves thoughts, feelings, and memories. Well, drinking Coke seems a bit complicated, doesn't it? A study published in 2004 shows how Coca-Cola's marketing has imprinted our brains with good thoughts, feelings, and memories. In this study, volunteers were asked to drink either Coke or Pepsi while their brains were scanned to find out which part of the brain became active. The researchers started out with blind taste testing like the Pepsi challenge. And they were able to replicate the result of the Pepsi challenge. That is, slightly over 50% of volunteers preferred Pepsi over Coke. No surprise there. Then the researchers made a slight change to the Pepsi challenge. The volunteers were told exactly what they're going to drink before taking a sip. It's no longer a blind taste test anymore. Suddenly, 75% of volunteers preferred Coke over Pepsi. More surprisingly, while they're drinking Coke, the emotional part of the brain, the memory part of the brain, and the thinking part of the brain became very active. In sharp contrast, this elevated brain activity pattern was not observed while they're drinking Pepsi. What does the study tell us? The study demonstrates what happens in our brains unconsciously when we think of a popular brand like a Coca-Cola. The study also demonstrates that our thoughts, feelings, and memories can unconsciously change our experience with a product. This is exactly how the unconscious mind influences our choices. The thoughts, feelings, and memories evoked by the Coca-Cola brand are the strong emotional connections people had. Coca-Cola missed those strong emotional connections when they reduced this iconic drink to just taste. This is why New Coke failed. Through this brain study, we can see how marketing can influence our decisions and our emotions without our awareness. This is where neuroscience meets marketing. Welcome to NeuroMarketing. NeuroMarketing is a new science of consumer decisions. It studies how we make buying decisions and how our emotions, feelings, and intuition can shape our decisions. But why did marketers start paying attention to our emotions, feelings, and the unconscious mind? Here are some of the reasons. Over the last few decades, neuroscience research has confirmed that over 95% of our decisions are made unconsciously. During the same time, medical studies have shown that without emotion, we simply cannot make decisions. Inside the human brain, there are many highly specialized areas. Each area has unique functions. Some are for seeing, some are for tasting, some are for hearing. This large area of the brain colored in blue is what we call the limbic system. It's our emotional brain. All our emotions depend on this part of the brain. Our love, compassion, optimism, pride, joy, happiness, as well as anger, fear, anxiety, embarrassment, guilt, and sadness are centered in this part of the brain. Neuroscientists often learn more about the brain when something goes wrong. Here we have Frank. He had a stroke. The stroke damaged a large part of his emotional brain. What's going to happen to him? What you're going to see is Frank will have a very difficult time making decisions, even the simplest decisions. When he goes to a grocery store to buy breakfast cereals, he will agonize over the decision whether he should choose Wheaties, Cheerios, or cornflakes. Without his emotional brain being fully functional, he simply cannot make that decision. Every purchase involves decision making. Both neuroscience and marketing can help us understand how we make decisions and what influences our decisions. This marriage between neuroscience and marketing has given birth to NeuroMarketing. But why does neuromarketing matter? Every year, 9 out of 10 new products fail. About $100 billion spent on marketing are wasted. The main reason is that traditional marketing fails to pay attention to consumers' unconscious emotional experiences. This is what happened to New Coke. If we can avoid wasting so much money on mindless marketing, both consumers and business win. With neuromarketing, the focus on creating better consumer experiences. And it does work. First, I'd like to share with you how Google taps into users' unconscious behavior to maximize its revenues. We all have seen Google ads before. The links in these ads are colored in blue. Every time you click on these blue links, Google makes money. One click can be $5, $50, or even $500 to Google. Naturally, Google wants its users to click on these ads more often. We know that color can influence our emotions and our behavior. The question Google asked was whether a subtle change of color in these blue links could change its users' clicking behavior. Several years ago, Google tested close to 50 shades of blue in these links, wanting to find out if certain shades of blue could generate more clicks. One shade of blue did generate more clicks. By adopting that color, Google increases annual revenue by $200 million. This is the power of neuromarketing. If you know what clicks with the brain, you can apply that knowledge to create a better customer experience. That better customer experience can translate into a stronger bottom line. This is why neuromarketing works. Next, I'd like to share with you how a slight and noticeable speed improvement by Amazon can increase its sales by over $1.7 billion. According to Amazon, 1/10 of a second speed improvement on Amazon's website can increase the sales by 1%. Consciously, we cannot detect 1/10 of a second difference, but unconsciously, our brains notice it. By speeding up the website ever so slightly, Amazon creates a better customer experience. And that better customer experience generates more sales. This is the power of neuromarketing. But with Google's unnoticeable change of color makes it click more, where Amazon's unnoticeable speed improvement makes it buy more, what does that tell us about our decision making? The question is, are we in total control of our decisions, or are they influenced by something so subtle that we don't even notice? A study published in 1975 shows how invisible social influence can shape our decisions. In this study, volunteers were asked to rate quality and price of cookies from 2 jars. One jar had 10 cookies, the other one had only 2. Volunteers were told the cookies in the jar with only 2 left were in high demand and in short supply. Not surprisingly, those cookies were rated as higher in quality and price because it was believed that more people wanted them. What is surprising is that all the cookies used in the study were identical. We tend to believe if something's wanted by more people, it must be good and valuable. Why is this invisible social influence so persuasive? It is because decisions create uncertainty. We feel safer by following decisions made by a crowd. This is a natural bias in our brains. Amazon understands this bias very well and uses bias to persuade us buy. Imagine you need a new coffee maker. How does Amazon help you decide? First, you're going to see a 4-star rating, then over 5,000 customer reviews, then over 1,000 questions answered, the #1 bestseller. All this information is based on other customers' opinions. This information comes before you see the price and the free shipping offer. Amazon persuades you by using this invisible social influence. Most people have not heard of neuromarketing yet, but if you ever bought anything at Amazon, you've been persuaded by Amazon's neuromarketing techniques. So far, we talked quite a bit about how our emotions can influence our decisions, especially our buying decisions. I'd like to spend the next few minutes to discuss with you how we make decisions and why we sometimes make irrational decisions. Daniel Kahneman is a psychologist. He won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2002. His research gives a lot of insights about how we think and how we make decisions. Kahneman proposed that inside our brains we have two thinking processes, fast thinking and slow thinking. Fast thinking is unconscious, uncontrolled, intuitive, and automatic. In contrast, slow thinking is controlled, conscious, analytical, and logical. There's another big difference between fast thinking and slow thinking. The fast thinking works around the clock, always eager to jump in, always very quick to respond, and very quick to come with an answer, solution, or judgment. But the slow thinking process is like a lousy employee. He's always late for work, he sleeps on the job, he never kicks in unless he has to. Next, I'd like to show you a few photos so you can experience both the fast thinking and slow thinking yourself. What is this picture? It's a baby. It takes you a fraction of a second to recognize it's a baby. This is an example of a fast thinking process. What is this picture? It's our flag. Again, it takes you a fraction of a second to recognize it's our flag. It's another example of a fast thinking process. You don't have to think about it. What about this picture? It's a traffic light. Again, this is an example of a fast thinking process. You don't have to think about it. But now I want to change my question. I want to ask you, how many times did you stop at a traffic light on your way over to the talk this afternoon? That answer does not come out right away. You need to trace back to your memory. You need to map out your route. You need to count how many times you stop at the intersection. And you need to add them up, maybe twice, maybe 5 times. This is an example of a slow thinking process. You need to slow down to do the thinking. You go to a restaurant, you got an $87 check, you want to pay 23% for a tip. You need to multiply 87 by 23. That number does not come out right away. You need to slow down, do the calculation. This is another example of a slow thinking process. Here's my next question. The question is this. Mary's mother has 4 daughters. Their names are April, May, June. What's the last daughter's name? Here's the question. Mary's mother has 4 daughters. Their names are April, May, June. If you ask 100 people this question, about 80 of them will tell you her name's July. But her name's Mary. Because the question is, Mary's mother has 4 daughters. Mary has to be one of the daughters' name. You already know the other 3 daughters' name. Her name has to be Mary. This example of this example is a collision of fast thinking, collision between fast thinking and slow thinking. This question actually calls for a slow thinking. But as I mentioned, the fast thinking works around the clock, always eager to jump in, say, hey, I know how to figure this out. I see a simple pattern, April, May, June, July. When we think fast, we tend to miss the whole picture. When we think fast, we tend to introduce errors and biases. As humans, we have close to 200 cognitive biases. Now, understanding these biases is very important to understanding our decision making and why we sometimes make irrational decisions. Today, I'd like to share with you one of these cognitive biases. We call the relativity bias. I'll give you one example. I'll give you 2 scenarios. We'll figure this out together. The question is $15 a big deal? 2 scenarios. The first scenario is You go to a store, you want to buy these speakers. The price is $20. Right before you check them out, you look up on your phone, you found a store 20 miles away, they sell the exact same speakers for $5. The question is, would you drive 20 miles to save $15? If you ask 100 people, about 80 of them will tell you, yeah, I'll drive 20 miles to save $15. Second scenario, you go to a store, you want to buy this laptop. The price is $1,000. Right before you check it out, you look up on your phone, you found a store 20 miles away, they sell the exact same model for $985, $15 cheaper. The question is, will you drive 20 miles to save $15? If you ask 100 people, about 80 of them will tell you, no, I won't drive 20 miles to save $15. But $15, $15, right? Why would you drive 20 miles to save $15 to buy the speakers, but not the laptop? But as we can see, $15 is not the same. So it depends on the reference point we have. The reference point is the price of speakers or the price of the laptop. To the speakers, $15 is 75% of the price. To the laptop, $15 is only 1.5% of the price. To the speakers, $15 looks big. To the laptop, $15 looks tiny. This is why most people rather drive 20 miles to save $15 to buy the speakers, but not the laptop. This is relativity bias. As humans, we have a very difficult time making a firm evaluation in total isolation or without any context. We need to have a reference point to understand what the true value is. This is relativity bias. And understanding this bias is very important to the NeuroMarketing insight I'd like to share with you. This insight is about how to price to sell. I know a lot of businesses, when they put out a proposal or put out a bid on a project, they only put out one price. I'm going to share with you one story and one research study to explain that one price is not the best way to go about doing this. In 1980s, Williams-Sonoma introduced the first bread making machine. They came out with just one model. It was listed for $275. It didn't sell very well because back then people didn't know what this was and people didn't know whether this was good value. Then Williams-Sonoma did something very clever but counterintuitive. They introduced a bigger, more expensive model. It was listed for $425. The bigger, more expensive model did not sell very well at all, but the original model started flying off the shelf. What happened here? This is a clear example of the relativity bias. When you just have one model, people have nothing to compare to. When you introduce a bigger, more expensive model, you introduce a reference point. You give people something to compare to. When they compared the original model against the bigger, more expensive model, they thought, hey, the original model is a good value. This is why a lot of people started buying the original model. This is the magic of having a reference point. It helps you increase your sales. But you may be thinking, Terry, I get your point. If I want to sell something, I need to introduce a more expensive option that will help me sell the cheaper option. But what if I want to sell the more expensive option? Next, I'd like to share with you a research study that answers the question. This study was led by a professor named Dan Ariely. He said he went to the Economist website. He saw 3 price options. Digital subscription only, $59, and print only option, $125, and print plus digital, $125. He said he was puzzled. He said, why would you have the last 2 options the exact same price? It doesn't make any sense. Then he took these 3 options. He asked his students what they would want. Here's the result. Most students, about 80%, wanted the more expensive option, print plus digital. Only about 20% wanted digital only, the cheaper option. Nobody wanted the print only option. Then he thought, if nobody wanted the print only option, it shouldn't really matter, right? He took the print only option out. he asked another group of students what they want. All of a sudden, the rate flipped. About 70%, the majority of them wanted the cheaper option. Only about 30% wanted the more expensive option. What happened here? Here's where we see another example of the relativity bias. When you have two options, most people use the more expensive option as the reference point. When they compared the two, they thought, hey, the cheaper option is a better value. This is very similar to the bread making machine example. But what about this one? What about the original three options? Why do most people want the more expensive option? The print-only option, even though nobody wanted, is a very clever way to introduce a reference point. When you compare the print plus digital against the print-only option, the print plus digital comes a clear winner. The print-only option as a reference point, it makes the print plus digital looks like a much better choice. This is the magic of having a reference point. You can nudge people to buy the option you want them to buy. This is about understanding the relativity bias. So far, we talked about what neuromarketing is, why traditional marketing often fails, why neuromarketing matters to you. We also had a very brief discussion on how we make decisions and why we sometimes make irrational decisions. And we also went through one neuromarketing technique that you can apply to grow your own business. I'd like to close my talk with one more story. And this story has some bathroom humor, literally and figuratively. Since you're done with your lunch, I hope you don't mind. It's about urinal spillage. When a guy stands in front of a urinal, he often does his business mindlessly and aimlessly. Spillage happens. It costs money to clean it up. It's a universal problem. In 1990s, the Amsterdam airport came up with a brilliant solution. All they did was to etch the image black fly near the drain of urinal. When guys see that black fly, they start aiming at it unconsciously. That reduces spillage by 80%. You may be wondering, Terry, other than your poor taste of humor, what's the point? I like this fly because it serves a good metaphor. When it comes to marketing, business owners and marketers always want to find the game changer. But very often they look for game changers all in the wrong places. Sometimes they just throw something at the wall, see if it sticks. But if you understand how the brain works, if you understand how people make their decisions, you can find a game changer that can have a huge impact. But very often this game changer, the most fascinating thing is very often this game changer is something we don't even pay attention to. It can be something very subtle, like the background music in a wine store, a slight change of color by Google, a noticeable speed improvement by Amazon, or using fly as a target. Once you find something subtle by following in neuroscience, the impact will be anything but subtle. As business owners, you want to outsmart your competition. You want to make your business thrive. Here's something I encourage you to try. Find your fly. And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Joe?
You mentioned a couple of books there, which I will be downloading and reading, but what did you think of Malcolm Gladwell's book called Blink?
The question is what I think the Malcolm Gladwell Blink. I actually read the book many years ago. I think he has some good points, but some of the research he did was kind of flawed. His point is that the idea of the Blink is when we have this intuitive thinking process. This is the fast thinking process, and then you need to rely on that. You can rely on that process, and then if you think longer, that doesn't necessarily make your decision better. But that's actually based on the research studies. That's not completely true. Depends on really who you are. It depends on how experienced you are. and not really say, if I know nothing about real estate, I walk into a house, I don't have the trained eyes, I cannot spot out the flaws. And I say, oh, this is like a great home. But if you bring into a very experienced real estate agent or a builder, they can really spot out, a lot of flaws. For them, really, it's a quick decision to spot out all the flaws. But for me, I can, if I just rely on my quick thinking, that's not going to cut it. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, please.
Between men and women, who make better rational decisions?
The question is between men and women, who make better rational decisions? Great question. I really cannot say for sure, but I would say,
Careful.
I know I don't want to offend, but let me just talk about this. It's really, I don't think it's about the gender. It's about really about what you're going through at that moment in your life. Whether you're under a lot of stress, or whether you're experiencing some hormonal changes in your life, or whether you're encountering some difficult situation. I'll give you an example. Stress actually can really cause us to make irrational decisions. At the we talk about hoarding Coke in 1985 during the new Coke fiasco. But recently we just saw the hoarding of toilet paper. But why did people hoard toilet paper? This is a very irrational decision. Because at the beginning of the pandemic, the last place you want to be is a crowded store, because you want to avoid the crowd. But when we're under stress, we cannot think rationally. We have the emotional brain, I demonstrate here. We also have a very sophisticated part of the brain that makes us think rationally. But when we're experiencing high emotions, the frontal cortex, which is the rational part of the brain, gets turned off. Just like when you're running away from the lion or a big bear, you don't have time to plan for a romantic dinner because you want to avoid to be at the lion's dinner. You cannot. Your body just shut off that part of the brain because you don't need it. You just need to run as fast as you can. So when we're under stress, the rational part of the brain gets turned off. The emotional part of the brain takes over, and we can make very irrational decisions, very crazy decisions. But it's not. I don't think it really depends on whether it's a gender, but it really depends on what the moment, what you're going through, and also, a few hours before that moment or a few weeks before that moment, what really led to that moment you make the rational decision or irrational decision. Yes, please.
I have a question. Is the limbic system you're talking about, is that the amygdala?
Yes.
I have one more question to that.
Go ahead.
I read an interesting book from Mr. Levitin. You might know him in California. He wrote How You Memorize Music. And he writes a whole book about, very analytic, about how you memorize music better when you have emotion connected to it. And you talk in a similar topic right now. So the connection between the frontal brain and the amygdala makes you better remember. So there is a connection between your analytic memory and between your emotional memory. And my last question, sorry, one more, would be if you know how much in your business of advising people is how much do you rely on the emotional and how much on the analytic?
Okay, 3 questions. The first question is, there's a structure in the brain called amygdala. Is it part of the limbic system? Yes. The amygdala is a very interesting structure. It really controls our fear, aggression. When you put the person in a brain scanner, you flash a photo of an angry face, the amygdala lights up. It's really control our fear. If you see, you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand back up, pull your hand back. That's your amygdala fires up. It's a part of the limbic system. The second question is how the two parts are connected. And the third question is, how emotion and memory are connected. The second one, is the emotional brain and the memory part of the brain, actually they're within the limbic system. From amygdala regulates our emotions. And there's another brain structure called the hippocampus. It responds for remembering long-term memory, storing long-term memories. And the hippocampus and amygdala, they're only one synapse away. So emotions controls are what we remember. The third question is, when we remember music, it's very easy to remember the music when we have when we feel the emotion in music. It's very true, just because when the emotion's high, because the amygdala is only one synapse away from the hippocampus, it controls what you remember, what you don't remember, because emotions actually makes us learn from our mistakes, so we don't make the same mistakes, and also makes us remember what's so joyful, what's so pleasure, so we can minimize our pain and maximize our pleasure. So emotions serve that purpose, and that's why we remember our first kiss, the first time we hold a baby, and the wedding day, and then the passing of the loved one, because those events are highly emotionally charged. We remember those just because of the brain structure. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Rule, if you could just stay here.
Okay.
As you know, as being a Rotarian, Rotary is an organization of over 35,000 clubs, 1.2 million members worldwide, problem solvers, and taking action to create lasting change. And in honor of your speech and your talk today, which I found absolutely very stunning, very informative and educational, we're going to make a donation to the Sheridan Story, which is an organization focused on food gaps and when children are unable to receive food and reduced meal programs. So on behalf of your talk here this afternoon, we'd like to make that donation, and here's our thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looking ahead, July 16th, today, is Rotaract, going to the Sheridan Story. And then on the 21st, next Tuesday, is our virtual leadership series kicks off. July 30th, Rotaract will be having a special event outside. And then August 5th would be our vocational networking speaker, will be Bill McCreevy. So thank you, everybody, for attending today, both live and in Zoom. I'd like to leave you with a quote from Simon Sinek, author and marketing consultant. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Meeting adjourned.